Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Out of Band, a Microsoft Security podcast. I'm Andrew Young, a lead Copilot and security architect at Infomotion. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in security and N365.
And I'm Anthony Porter, a cloud security architect at Canon Business Services, specializing in that Defender and Intune space. Obviously, normally we would have a third, but unfortunately, I'd say duty calls. So unfortunately, Shayhan isn't with us today. But normally we do have Shayhan Pereira, who is also a security architect and an MVP within the, I believe, Intune and security space as well.
Identity and access, man.
That's the one. That is absolutely my fault.
Yes. But you could just say he's a security MVP, and that would work. That is
But
dismay.
no. As I said, it's well, technically for us, it is the start of October, which is a great time to, I guess, reflect across all of September. We had an awesome last episode with Matt Clark, which obviously, once again, thank you to him for joining us in the podcast for that episode. We had some really good reviews. We had some really good feedback from that episode. So once again, it's good to get a lot of some of the community involved in this because everybody everybody is actually starting to really like that. So if you are interested, I'd say reach out. The worst we can say is no. But if you are interested, please do.
Yeah, we're generally saying yes anyway. And yes, being that it is October, it's also Cybersecurity Awareness Week slash month slash day or whatever it is. But it's everything security this month. And along with that, there was a Microsoft Secure event as the month rolled over. So there's a bunch of announcements, and we'll try and cover a few of those today, this episode rather.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I think that's a great segue into, I guess, that what's new section. So we often try to cover off what is new within the Microsoft stack, specifically more in the security limelight. And obviously, I will start off with, I guess, Defender. I guess in terms of Defender, there hasn't necessarily been too much. There has been quite a lot in regards to that hunting and advanced hunting. So there's a lot in the preview space. For example, you can now hunt using the hunt graph, which I guess renders predefined threat scenarios. So once again, makes it a bit easier. There's also the ability to investigate incidents using the blast radius analysis, which is an advanced graph, like a visualization built into the Sentinel data lake and that graph infrastructure. So that essentially generates an interactive graph where you can propagate like paths from the selected nodes to be able to predefine like critical targets and scope, specifically to things like the user's permission. So really gives you that blast radius, how big is the damage. And I guess things like you can now like enrich your data using within things like custom detection rules. So within Defender, it is detection rules. Within Sentinel, it would be analytic rules. By creating like dynamic alerts based on the titles and descriptions to be able to, fine tune what that is, so you can go and look. And I guess in the Defender space, the advanced hunting schema tables are now available for preview for the cloud storage aggregated events. So that's table contents about storage activity and related events. As well as identity events. So that is the information about identity events obtained from cloud identity service providers. So that's not just looking at things like Entra, but it's starting to go across the board to things like Okta and whatnot. I guess jumping over more into Intune, where there has been a lot more, noise in that space, would be, I believe it was as of really recently announced, the end of support for the old versions of Android's Intune company portal. I believe the idea of that is more or less a please update. And the update notes for that obviously are within the Microsoft Learn portal. So for administrators, it's genuinely going in and redeploying that application using the new information. And for users, I guess it is going to the Google Play Store, for example, in the Android, to be able to go and download that most recent company portal if need be. So once again, that applies to Android. There's also, I guess, we'll touch more on it in, I guess, a later section, but some updates in regards to the Security Copilot in Intune, more specifically to the vulnerability remediation agent. I did quite a bit of a write up on that because I thought that was an amazing fit between, I guess, where some platforms potentially automate vulnerability management and so on. So I did a bit of an article on that. So there were updates to that, but once again, we'll touch on that a bit later. You do now have the ability to filter device configuration profiles within the portal. So previously it was kind of one big page of information, but now you can go through and you can filter via platform or scope tag or the last modified, which may make it a lot easier to find the information you want, which obviously in the past hasn't necessarily been the case. There were new 0-day settings available within the Apple settings catalog. So things like um, the managing settings for default applications. There was more restrictions, more web content filtering and whatnot. And that was across iPad OS and the Mac OS as well. And I'd say there's, more moving more towards the device management. Obviously, there is the device category management support for multi-admin approval. That is the Intune device categories being able to have multiple approval processes to be able to create or delete or edit aspects of the environment. There was, as of recently, once again, the uh, update to the new security baseline update experience. I believe Shayhan, as of a few days ago, actually put an article out on this. But the idea is that they are consistently trying to find ways to improve that update experience of those security baselines. So with this change, when you update a security baseline that was created after May 2023, which obviously flipped from the version to the 22H2, 23H2, etc. experience, um, you get the same baseline, but you have two options to help you automatically configure. Where one is you keep the configurations or the customizations. So within that, Intune applies all the setting customizations from the original baseline that you've upgraded to. So that essentially allows you to retain the instance itself and all the organization specific modifications that you've potentially made. But then there's also the alternative where it'll scrap it and you essentially get that default new baseline, which then obviously you'd be able to cross comparison, what applied back then in terms of potentially security may not apply now, and it's more of a secure by default approach where secure by default, you should probably reevaluate to see if these are applied. Um, but outside of that, I'd say, very obvious is that Windows 10 end of life is coming around, and also that kind of recomplements the new, I guess, uh, OS rollout, which was 25H2, which is now available within Intune to deploy as well. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's deliverable through Windows Auto Patch and the M365 Admin Center, and you can get it through your usual what is it, the Windows software download service, as well as if you've got one of the various Visual Studio subscriptions, you may get access to those ISOs and product keys and whatnot. Uh, if you're still running Windows Server Update Services or WSUS, it is available, or will be made available rather, on the 14th, 15th of October. There'll be an October security update alongside that one as well. Yeah, I guess some of the new features in 25H2, it's all AI enhanced now. So there's AI actions in the File Explorer. There is Click to Do. So you're familiar with To Do app, which is your task tracking. With this, with a click, it's got some actions behind the scenes to set up certain, I guess, reminders, workflows, and whatnot on your local device. That will rely on you having a Copilot Plus PC though. So yeah, it makes sense that it has the local NPU to do those features for you, and there's also going to be agents in the settings as well. So I think that's going back to the early days of, hey, we've got Copilot in Windows. I want to change my UI appearance to dark mode, and then they took it away and now it's back, I think, with this agent in your settings. So um, just being able to find those really cool features that you wouldn't necessarily know about. And I think in an earlier versions of Windows, there was something called the God mode control panel. So instead of hacking your operating system to get you to the settings, you just talk to an agent now in your settings interface, and you get that done. There's a whole bunch of other things around, quick machine recovery. We've got hot patching now for your Windows OS, so you don't necessarily reboot your device on certain updates. And yeah, we're just talking about baseline up security baselines and whatnot. A day later, after that was announced, we've got the Windows 11 25H2 security baselines in Intune, and that's a whole bunch of new new things have been added. And off the bat, because this time around, well, I mean, Microsoft were aiming to do a day zero, to coincide with the launch of the new OS, but it took an extra day just to make sure things were aligned and that we could start securing these operating systems as they become available. So I think right now you can set up your update policies to push it out and apply the baselines. So we'll move along. So the next kind of thing I want to touch on would be Entra or Entra ID. So there is this month identity and network security practitioner webinar series. So they're going to cover all sorts of things between unified identity, network access, prioritizing zero trust. We've got our friend Meryl Fernando will be leading the speaker. Or yeah, the list of speakers there. A bunch of other people on the senior team at Microsoft and even IDC. So I forget what that stands for, but they usually get the statistics around which security product is leading in the market, and Microsoft tends to be pretty high up there, top right. It's the Magic Quarter, Gartner quarters as well. So makes sense that we've got these people on the calls or the webinars rather. The second webinar would be around getting your Microsoft Entra suite set up correctly, and the third one will be around. Well, it will be the namesake, so it's the practitioner's playbook for Entra Suite in action. So that'll be good series to catch. They'll be on, I guess, from next week. I guess the 8th our time.
I think it was the
8th,
8th, yeah.
yeah, the 8th, the 10th, and then the 22nd. Those are all loose conversions from Pacific time, so we get that all a day later. Um, I don't know. Was there anything else Entra new Entra?
Uh, I mean, not necessarily. Something
No.
I recently noticed, I guess, in regards to some features around ID governance, was that you now require an Azure subscription to be able to use them, or that is actually something that is going to be happening
Yeah,
as of
yeah.
November.
Is it? I think across the security products, there are some items or features that will be on pay as you go because it's outside of the regular operations of that license.
Mm,
So the intro one I haven't really looked into too much, but I know in the purview side of things, have gone, hey, you want this thing? It's going to cost you this much to do a extra kind of
yeah.
investigation. That yeah, so it is storing data somewhere. So I guess they are expecting you to spin up some form of workspace, and that's where the pay as you go billing comes in.
Yeah, I'd say that with, I guess, you know, we'll discuss it a bit later, obviously, but some of these agents and the features within that agent, I think there is, I guess, maybe some requirement for logging, as you said. I think it's also a good opportunity because, it could potentially then allow for, I guess, billing and the cost management side of things to be something within Azure that you could start to look at, whereas currently to date, it
Mm,
sits within the M365 and licensing space where you don't know what you need and you don't know what you have, and that might also start to shine a bit of a light. So, yeah, as I said, it's something I actually stumbled across today and went, "Oh, okay, what's happening here?" And I didn't look too deep into it, but yes, absolutely, I spotted that one in Purview as
mm,
well. But yeah, I believe that is November 2025. So I would hazard a guess that most of you that are using the Microsoft space, especially with security, likely has a Azure subscription, so you're good to go. It's more an advisory, as if you do not, you may need to stand one up in a pay-as-you-go for some of these upcoming features.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously you can have as many subscriptions as you need and just tie them to a certain service. So whoever's managing your billing, they may be already across how the Azure subscription works, so it shouldn't be too hard. And if you are going through like an indirect provider, there's obviously ways around getting specific subscriptions spun up and tied to certain services and resources. We mentioned Purview, so just as many updates and stuff, but I did see that they've added a new Purview deployment model. So previously there were a couple, and these were focused around secure by default, preventing leakage of data, and also the blueprint around reducing oversharing. So the newest one, and I believe it's just the one that was brand new, is around securing agents in M365 with Microsoft Purview. So very similar kind of appearance in is 3 or 4 stages. These are the kind of controls we want to turn on and kind of ensure that the right kind of access, there's governance in terms of who is allowed to create them, what the agent's actually allowed to do, where they can be shared, and so on. So uh, check that out. We'll definitely drop links for those ones there. There's a whole bunch of models that you can follow. Um, I have to say that there was a series of the level is level 400. I don't know if they were that deep, but yeah, our friend that we like to reference a lot is Ray Rays, and he did a level 400 series just on LinkedIn. We'll drop the link to his blog post, and it's got all the links to the individual videos where he does a bit of a deeper dive into each of the services in Purview. Um, yeah,
I was
so I
gonna
guess
we could segue from, I guess, the I guess that being the standard run of the mill, what's happening in that space. We could probably, pivot over to what's happening within that Security Copilot space, if you'd like.
yeah,
I was
yeah. Well, in
obvious.
line with the event, and you've got tons of stuff to cover here.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, look, obviously with Microsoft Secure, it being October, be it Cybersecurity Awareness Month, obviously Microsoft's come straight out the gates with a lot of announcements in that space. Announcements that we'll touch on obviously is that MCP for Sentinel. So obviously that leverages the data lake environment. So MCP, Model Context Protocol, obviously allows for you to get a bit more of a deeper insight into what's happening within, for example, uh, your data lake or your Sentinel environment, which then allows you to leverage things like Security Copilot or Copilot in general to provide more insights and more understanding, so that I guess when you are prompting with natural language, it has a bit more of an idea as to what you're actually talking about, because you've kind of narrowed its field of view to specifically, we're going to be talking about Sentinel in these prompts.
Hmm,
At least that's how I try to explain it. Is that
yeah.
there's
Well,
many MCPs,
hmm,
and that's
hmm.
you're essentially just reducing its field of view with context.
Yeah, well, taking a step back, like the whole idea of MCP servers is to allow you to have an external data source for your agents to communicate with. And alongside this announcement was that you can now create your own custom agents within Security Copilot, and that's why it's hooked up into the Sentinel MCP server. So you've got so much data to play with here, and the agents are going to be a lot more fine tuned to whatever you're trying to investigate for, hunt for.
Absolutely. And I guess with Security Copilot and all of the platforms that we've talked about, as you just mentioned, there has been a lot of agents made available. I guess touching on, I'd say Intune, which I previously made mention, there were updates to the vulnerability remediation agent. I guess just going through some of them. So yeah, once again, the vulnerability remediation agent within Intune is a way that it uses data from Defender vulnerability management to identify the individual like CVE or common vulnerability and exposure within a Windows invulnerability, which may actually be existing on a managed device. So the result of that is that it's able to look at all of those, prioritize, and then provide a step-by-step guide for that remediation, in which that would then follow through into Intune. So once again, that's use of a Copilot agent by, for example, a security team, essentially reduce the amount of time that it would take to, I guess, triage all of the CVEs, investigate the requirements, identify what devices are impacted, and then also provide the remediation flow for that. What could potentially take a couple of hours, obviously then would take a couple of minutes. So once again, it really just looks to reduce that amount of time, because really when you're talking about security, time is kind of everything. Now, obviously, that was the one in Intune for the Security Copilot that I'm aware of. I guess more highlighting, I guess, a lot in the Defender space. So agents such as the phishing triage agent. So the idea of that is that it helps your SOC or your security operations by triaging and classifying that user-based or user-submitted phishing incidents. So, for example, they click report for phishing. The idea is it would automatically pick it up and identify that. So the agent operates autonomously, so it sits in the background. You don't have to worry about it, and it provides that transparent like rationale, that logic for it to classify a verdict in natural language. So once again, if you are not, a seasoned professional, you can understand where it's coming from. And then once again, it continuously learns and improves, and it increases its accuracy based on the feedback from the analyst. So once again, if it comes in and has a bunch of jargon, then obviously there's a bit of a feedback loop that helps in that space. So, once again, the trigger in this case would be the user in your organization submitting a phishing incident, so whether that is clicking that they have, for example, reported an email for phishing. That's one of the triggers. Then obviously it would go and look at it and provide is it phishing or not, based on training and context of your organization. That obviously is quite a decent, push forward with that space as well. I believe it was identified that phishing is by far the most noisy within an environment, especially when you have the scale of multiple users. So yeah, I guess coming back is that all of these agents do require SKU, so not SKU, but SCU, the Security Compute Unit. The amount of times I've said SKU and they've wrote or said, oh, SKU, yep, no worries. I'm like, actually, we're talking compute now, I feel like I have to just reconsider and re-advise every time. But yes, the SKU is what we are requiring, really. And then what I'll do, I'd say, is I'll hand it over. Actually, I'll finish off with the threat intelligence briefing agent. So once again, sitting within that, I guess, Defender space, is the idea is that analysts these days are faced with, the requirement to deliver insights and actions and contextualize a bunch of information from multiple different sources. The idea of this agent would then be to respond to those incidents or those pain points of an analyst in that case. So the agent kind of sits by itself in I guess the standalone portal for Security Copilot, and it looks to generate the intelligence briefings based on specific or latest threat actors, both potentially internal or external, in minutes. So the idea is that you could then provide that upwards, so whether it be for relevant reporting for your CISO or your C-level suite, or your security team or managers or the analysts themselves, to be able to be aware as to what's contextually, something they should be aware of. Obviously, that sort of proactivity hat is always what these security teams need, because quite often or not, they'll be chasing the defensive path, and the only way that you can get ahead of it is actually to be ahead of it. So that's what this threat intelligence briefing agent looks to do. The idea is it looks to try and help you get ahead of the curve, whether that be with actionable insights of you should be aware of these IPs, you should be aware of this threat, you should be aware of these malicious tactics, just to be able to give you a bit more of a forward foot approach to something that may or may not be, not even in your glance. Once again, the requirement for a SKU, it isn't as much SKU. Once again, it is kind of ran when you need it to be. I'm just having a quick look to double check if there has been any sort of advisory as to the amount of SKU. But once again, I think given that a lot of these are either just coming straight out of preview or they are just in preview, most of that information will get ironed out. But I wouldn't imagine that would be too many skew at this stage.
I think if just having the SKUs to light up the Security Copilot is, yeah, the first step here. And as these agents kind of take on more workload, then they'll obviously have a bigger SEU requirement. But yeah, while it's in preview or public preview, try and get on as much as you can, just get an idea of how it all works, and yeah, you may be able to provide feedback to shape the finished product as well. Um, yeah, I guess I'll start going into some of the other agents that are all the first party agents in Security Copilot. One of the early ones was relating around Entra. So there is a conditional access optimization agent. So this one sits there and it monitors for, changes or any drift in your conditional access policies. It also picks up whether there's new users being added, they've been assigned these policies or not, and then it proactively checks for any gaps that may be in real time. So rather than just you setting and forgetting these policies and doing other things, it's going to be sitting there and going through and hopefully refining the coverage without too much of a SEU consumption here. But I think that's one to, leverage if you can have access to it. And just, yeah, the other day during the event, they announced that there's now going to be a new agent around access reviews. So this is more the, yeah, I guess identity governance side of things here. So we've got, I think the access review process before was you've assigned or someone has an entitlement to a certain role or something as well, and that's usually a timed experience. You request it, you're approved, and so on. Whereas the agent here can now do kind of that review process for you. So you still have someone initiate it because you obviously someone interacts with Security Copilot to talk with the agent and so on. But then, yeah, you can get some informed ideas of whether, this assigned access is, does it need to be into further? Do we need to stop it? Do we, yeah, and so on. So currently that's in preview. There's a few capabilities, I guess you can go. So revoking access that was previously approved. You can now delegate these review tasks and generally available, even though the overall overall agent is still in preview. But you can request access packages for your direct reports, and then you can view and manage the team access in the My Access. That includes the ability to revoke access for certain packages. So within Entra ID governance, you create these access packages. So it could be, permissions, roles, and then the actual resources themselves. So it could be M365 groups, it could be SharePoint sites, and so on. So you've got this agent now that can do all that on your behalf as well. So it's it's a crazy time, identity. But yeah, turning it around, we mentioned Purview a few times, and there's obviously an agent for almost every security product there. So Purview is getting two. It's kind of a two-in-one. It's around alert triaging. So there's an alert triage agent for data loss prevention and one for insider risk management. And if you're familiar with any of those two products, you know how important they are in sense of data security, especially with all the AI we're using right now. But yeah, alert, like you said before, phishing, triaging. These alerts can get very noisy, and sometimes it's, false positive, or it's just a lot of alerts because people are doing things every day, right? So this will help you kind of go through, preen out the ones that are, legitimate, or the most. It'll help you prioritize the most involving alerts there, and how much of an impact it is on, I guess, how sensitive that data is as well. So adjust the priorities there for future alerts as well. And yeah, and I
I was
think
gonna
that's
was going to say, whilst we're still on the topic of Security Copilot and agents, I guess you did mention you now have the ability to build your own Security
mm,
Copilot agents with the whole MCP side of things. Obviously, just wanted to touch some of the partner agents. So obviously there is a bit of a Microsoft security store now available. So the idea is that as a partner, for example, you can build out these agents and then almost resell them if they have, the specific requirements. So I guess calling out some of the agents which have been built, and I guess the companies that have built them, just in brief, would be the Network Supervisor Agent by Aviatrix. So the idea of that one would be that it performs that root cause analysis and summarizes issues related to things like virtual private networks or VPNs, gateways, or site to cloud connections, outages, and failures. For example, there was also the SecOps tooling agent by Blue Voyant. So if you've been in the Microsoft security space, you'll definitely know Blue Voyant. Assesses, so that agent looks to assess security operations centers and state of control to make recommendations that make, think potentially lives easier, such as optimizing security operations processes, improve controls, improve efficiency, uh, improve compliance and whatnot. Then there's the Task Optimizer agent by Fletch. So that helps organizations forecast and prioritize the most critical threat alerts to reduce alert fatigue and improve security overall. And then finally, we've got the Privacy Breach Response Agent by OneTrust. And that looks to analyze data breaches to generate guidance for privacy teams on how to meet regulatory requirements. So once again, there are obviously partners out there that are trying to help out in that space as well. So if you've got a brilliant idea about something that maybe hasn't been touched on, and you've got a bit of a creativity edge and a bit of time, you might be able to put one together and have it published on the store for others in the community to use.
Yeah. I mean, when these agents for Security Copilot first announced, I think there was like 6 or 10 agents from these partners. I think this time around there was 30 new agents announced across all of those different features. So it's a lot of work is being put into it, and obviously Microsoft has to review all these, make sure that they're ready for consumption as well. Just want to quickly touch on that. Yes, we've got the Sentinel MCP side of things, but they also announced that there's the Sentinel Graph. So yes, you got API, you've got obviously Copilot will talk to APIs and all that. The other thing is the Sentinel Data Lake that we talked about last episode or episode before. That's now generally available. So yeah, it's all coming full circle. We've got all this information from Sentinel now easily ingestible by, by agents. So yeah, it's a pretty wild time for security folk.
Almost have to put on a second hat, get the old AI mindset of how can I do this better? How can I automate this? What's that thing that's been sitting on your plate that you go, I just wish this could happen a bit easier, a bit more streamlined? Because as you said, I think this is the opportunity to potentially even knock some of those on the head. Um, because yeah, I mean, now is where we in the security space where that's kind of, I wouldn't say has lacked in the past, but uh, we're starting to get a real shining, torch in this direction to be able to look towards a lot of things like automation and these agents now, where previously we wouldn't have as much, I guess, accessibility or accessibility of the environments, for example, via code. Obviously, now we're getting a lot more of that exposure through things like the MCP, as you said, through Graph. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time to be
Mm.
in this.
Yeah. Oh, and the contrast of that is, the adversaries also have access to AI and agents and stuff, and you're only as good as your defense is against that kind of a threat. Um,
Fight AI with AI is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
well, pretty much. I mean, that's where they end up being. Like, why use people when something else can do the job quicker?
Whoa, whoa,
Not
whoa.
necessarily
Yeah,
better. Not necessarily
yeah.
better. It's gonna be quicker. Mileage may vary. But
you,
yeah.
you might not understand the output, but the
Yeah.
input will make sense.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what we had in terms of announcements and yes, content. This last month, and that's a lot of stuff. And then we've only just touched the surface on all of that. But I guess we also had our Microsoft Community Zero to Hero session in September. So we put ourselves forward to be presenters, and I did a redo of my data security considerations for M365 Copilot, probably in parentheses agents as well, but yeah, same, but different, right? And you had yours as well, just the other date of this week, rather.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I obviously Puya contacted and said, "How about this date?" And I said, "Absolutely." And little did I know it was a public holiday, so I even on a day off, I'm still hard at it. But look, that's my mistake.
So you guys had was it Labor Day?
King's birthday.
You got
Yeah,
King's birthday end of Sept.
I don't make the rules. I
Fair enough.
just I
Do you
just
have
get
one? Do
told
you
you
have
can.
one coming Monday?
No,
No.
that's I think everybody else. That's Eastern States, right?
So WA and Victoria don't have Labor Day the same time we do. Okay, that's interesting. But we have King's birthday in like June. So
Yes, yes. I'm pretty sure we just had King's birthday, but look, I'll take a day off. But
oh,
really, day off or not, I once again I signed myself up to deliver the presentation,
yeah,
and no, I had a blast. It was good. So, no rest for the
yeah.
wicked.
No, always good to get involved in these events, and I'm sure the audience will benefit from our other contributions in that space. Um, what else is going on? Oh, we had our SAI or South Australia IT Connect community lunch. So many long words. We got to stop doing this. And that's from the Discord community server that our friend Matt Clark has founded, and I'm an admin of. But yeah, we had a decent turnout yesterday. The second lunch event. Hopefully, we'll get some presenters to do something online in the Discord server at some point, because we are just doing virtual catch ups every couple of weeks just to talk, what's the latest, what events are on, pain points and challenges at work. But if people are keen to present something, yeah, that's another platform as well.
Well,
Uh,
we'll have to scratch up our zero to hero presentations and go for. I believe it would be version 4 for you if you redo yours. It'll be version 3 for mine.
the rate new stuff is coming out, it's not a bad idea, like to do it every month or two, because yeah, I'm sure something's been renamed like in the last week, right?
You got to take another
Same.
screenshot because it's a different theme or a different color scheme now. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
gonna
You
pick that
can't
one up.
just you can't just snip and change the icon. It's the whole UI's been flipped
Yeah,
around, and just saying the other day, it's like an announcement every week now, because it used to be, maybe a month you'd get
monthly.
an
Yeah,
announcement, and then it started speeding up to every couple, like mid month, and now it's like, hey, you weren't paying attention, but this is now a thing. And for what? Like
out of the
even
blue,
earlier
they're
this
like,
week,
here's
yeah.
5 security things you need to be aware of because this is going to change your job. And you're like, oh, cool. It's the first of the month. I guess I'll I guess I'll just get right onto it. No, it's good. As I said, no complaints. Thank you so much. But yeah, it's coming in thick and it's good though. Like I said, I think that I wouldn't say security was a byproduct, but really security is a real in the limelight right now for good and obvious reasons. With
It's
the right,
always been there. It's an inherent thing that needs to be addressed, but it like you just need the drivers, right? Yeah,
yeah, and I think
play AI.
yeah,
Yeah,
like bad
just
people doing bad
world
things.
changing
Yeah,
things to make. Hey, actually, maybe we should invest in security.
wouldn't that make sense? Well, look, I mean, obviously, it's still disappointing to see that with everything that's happening and all of the, I guess we'll call it bad media associated, businesses are still kind of approaching that. It might not happen to us. We're too small, and that's I feel like
Age
that.
old adage.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like that's starting to pivot a bit. People are starting to go, that it is very doom and gloom. The whole, it's not if, it's when, and all that kind of thing. But that really is the case. As these
yeah.
automation
It's
tools really start to up the ante, they are going to get bored of focusing on the enterprise or the big, and they will just automate the small. And unfortunately, I feel like that's where they're gonna, really hit big. Is that obviously with the recent bits and pieces that have happened in some, I would say ransomware's, not necessarily a thing these days until as of extremely recently. But I think the idea is that you it's only going to come the time where the big get stronger, but the little who thought they were under the radar for a period of time are becoming the focal target point. And unfortunately, now is the time to, bolster yourself whilst you are little, due to the fact that well, you're essentially in a way better position because as soon as you
Mm.
go, I guess, up in scale, you have to make a lot more changes and a lot more change advisories and whatnot to be able to get things to go ahead, which obviously reduces the speed that you can improve on your security. So call that a
Look at the,
call that
look
a
at the other
public
way.
service
Yeah.
announcement, right?
If you look at the other side of it, like the adversaries can be like, oh, these guys are easy. I'm just gonna focus on these guys. Whereas, you got bigger corporations. Oh, there's layers and layers of defense and depth. It's like, oh, I don't want to spend my time or resources on that. They're obviously gonna go for the easy wins, right? So the smaller businesses that may not think they're gonna get done will be the ones targeted naturally because of we're all lazy by nature, right? It's the easiest path of least resistance, right? The last, well, I wouldn't say 4 or 5 years, but like common themes in these, I guess, events, lunch and learns, and call them tables and all. So there's always something around cybersecurity insurance. Whereas, what do you need to do to become eligible for that in the event that you do get compromised? And it's only getting harder just to get it. And obviously the cyber insurance companies don't really want to pay out as much because it's a lot of money. So they want you to do your due diligence to ensure that your environment is as secure as it can be, just to avoid this altogether. Um,
I
and the other
think
thing, having someone from an organization that has gone through the process of being compromised, having data loss, having yeah a, a a halt to their business. Essentially, their livelihood is extremely affected, and they've had to climb all sorts of mountains and ravines to get out of that, and they're kind of feet now, living to tell the story of, hey, no, it's not a joke. Like, you need to consider all this stuff, otherwise, you could be your next day could be your last in terms of,
operation.
yeah,
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 and I think to your point, you're absolutely right. It's the you could hit well, we're playing small figures, but you could hit one enterprise and get $100. But that one enterprise needs to essentially be faulted. But you could hit many and many a small businesses and may only get five, but you only need a handful of them to actually equivalate to what you have gained through enterprise. Now the catch to that is that you hit small, enterprise will bounce back. Enterprise has, the foundations of bouncing back. They have their DRs, they have their BCPs, they have, sorry, disaster recovery plans, they have their business continuity plans and whatnot. Small businesses that don't necessarily have that kind of, I guess, procedure, process, governance behind, what do we actually do when something goes wrong?
mm,
All of a sudden, you hit someone small. Yes, okay, they may only profit a little bit, but you actually out of pocket even worse. To your point, that could be operation closed doors,
mm,
and that's
yeah,
really scary. And it's a I don't like to shine the it could be very scary for you light. I am as optimistic as I can possibly be, but that really is how it is approaching. That is how things are going
mm,
now. It's that if you are not in front, you are behind. And now with the rise of AI and the malicious actors in that space, and not even the malicious actors, like I could go on about the webinar I
oh,
just did, but the idea is that like you could even potentially not be a malicious actor. You could just be someone that's just trying to do a faster, more efficient job, and then all of a sudden you've lost all of your IP
mm,
to some sort of public LLM or something along
yes,
those lines, and and it's show's over, it's game over.
mm,
I guess just briefly touching on that, I did recently not only did I do a bunch of other presentations, I also did a webinar with Jeff Beckett from Microsoft, which was pretty good. Once again, it was on that insider risk. So obviously with that, um, a bit of a shining light on the use of AI, but more so on that insider risk aspect. So I guess for those unaware, insider risk is essentially that, I guess, risk from an insider. Now that insider may be malicious, may be disgruntled, maybe just, put in their resignation letter. Um, but they also may just be a everyday just trying to do the best job they can with the resources they've got, with the time they have during the day. Um, and I think that's what this was trying to shine the light on, where insider risk within a business isn't necessarily something that you can metrically track. But the idea is that with the right tooling, you can obviously have a bit more of a look into what people are doing day to day. And then obviously using something um, like machine learning, you can track certain common outcomes or specific events which may deem someone a bit more of a risk within that space and then apply actions to it. And then obviously with the rise of AI and the AI usage, it's that, do you know who's using AI in your environment? Do you know what content they're putting in? You give all the trust in the world to these employees because you're paid to do a job and you do the job as best you can. But do you know what they're actually doing in that space? Because everybody's, trying to do more with less. And really, I think there's still a little bit of a stigma behind the use of AI within businesses. Like people don't want to actually outwardly say, I used AI to get XYZ done quicker. I think that is slowly starting to drop down because I believe everybody is using AI. And if you're not,
Yes.
like, I hope Google's really good still. But
Yeah,
like,
the messaging has completely changed. Like, oh, I don't want AI. Going to be with the curve this time around, and
I mean,
like,
I think early stages I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm
I
gonna,
yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever. And like ChatGPT became very popular. Oh, yeah, I'll take a look. I'll take a
yeah.
look, and then it blew up even more. I'm like, oh, okay,
I
good,
was
good.
I feel like I was very much like I don't need that. It's just glorified Google. Like I
Yeah,
can do glorified Google. I'm good at searching in Google. That's how I got my job. Like I'm a proficient Googler. And then I realized like, oh, actually it's like Google on steroids, and I don't have to worry about having to use the old properties and parameters to be like,
or I
I
don't need to read. Is the thing.
yeah, press the button,
Yeah.
just read it out for me. Gone are the days where you type into Google like file brackets, the extension, and it'll only go and look for PDFs or PowerPoints and stuff like that, right? Like back in
I didn't
those.
even do that.
Seriously? Yeah, yeah. No, no. Like
Just
back in the
hard
day.
keyword search.
Yeah. Security, please. Yeah. No. Uh,
One, please.
yeah. No, no, it'd be able to I say, no, I only want to look at this site. No, I only want to look at this file extension. So it only finds attachments with like PDF or PowerPoint. So when you're trying to find some, prehistoric document you found at one stage, you go, I know it's a PDF, and being able to like solo. But once again, all of a sudden you've had to go that deep into it and start thinking about it. You jump into AI and be like, need this please, and it'll be like, yeah, here you go, on a silver platter, you want more? It's like, not really, but thank you for the offer. And then you
It's
say,
like that episode of The Simpsons. It's like, you want coffee? Oh yeah. You want sugar? Yeah. You want cream? No.
probably not either. Yeah, I'm cool with
Yeah.
coffee and sugar. But
The guy's pulling the sugar out of his pockets. I think that was the joke.
have to
Yeah.
have to re-look at that episode. I don't think I remember that one.
I don't know. Is it legit? There's a second Simpsons movie coming out.
I heard that was
2027. Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
saw that pop up. It was like all over like 9 News or something like that. They're like, this just in. I was like, I'm gonna read that, and I completely forgot until you just said it. So
Yeah.
now
Because
I'm
the
gonna have
last
to
one was like, yeah, like literally 10 years ago almost.
the Spider Pig
And it,
origin.
it just took so long for the first movie, and it's like, oh, have another 10 years before that comes announced.
Matt Groening still yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
That movie will predict the next 20 years
Oh
in
God,
itself,
no.
and we'll just be like, oh god, he knows. It's like the cartoon version of Black Mirror. No. Tell me it's not though.
Uh,
No. But no, I'd say it's a it's a good time to, if you are still trying to hide the fact that you're using AI, it's now is the time to like actually jump out and say, hey, by the way, I'm using AI. It might actually, start to generate that culture because everybody's using AI. Like whether
And I think
it's
it's Also, like a lot of services are like, here's AI. It's like, okay, so that you're being encouraged, if not enforced, to use it in some situations, and over time, that's how the population will adopt, these AI services, because it's always been there. And I guess the next generation of people will be like, they're born into the AI. We merely adapted to it.
molded by it. Well, technically, I think we molded it because through through all of these agents, we technically molded it.
Hmm.
So probably not as dramatic, but at least to our youth, we can say that, right? At least that's what I tell my kid. I'll be like, look, back in my day, no, they'll think
Yeah,
I'm.
you were merely fine tuned.
Yeah, you merely used it. No, me, I remember the old LLMs. The bloody hell. No. Look, I mean, apart from, I guess, the tech of it, we've obviously both done aspects from the Microsoft Zero to Hero community event. Um, what your event was Purview specifically, and the considerations around Copilot.
Yeah, it was Microsoft Purview, Copilot control system, and between the two, there's enough like inclusions to cover, a large amount of those, risks or surface areas, or it was fairly high level, so it was just introducing all the different products, I guess, and what they do mainly, and how it fits in with preventing either, inappropriate access or loss of, or leakage of that information,
Yeah,
and governance as well. But yes,
chuck,
all very fun and dry content.
chuck, chuck that one in right at the end. Oh, and governance. I can't forget that one.
Yes, that's one of those keywords.
Yeah, say the buzzword. Nah.
Yes, what was it? Governance, risk, and compliance are the three words to throw in there. Yes,
GRC, the old
yes,
that one. No, I
yes, that
mean,
one.
in terms of mine, mine obviously was as of somewhat recent. Mine was more in regards to, I guess, mine was a version two of, I guess, an extended version of the presentation I did at the Global AI Bootcamp earlier in April this year. So I think I reflected and said I didn't do that justice. I did only have a short period of time, and obviously, I believe I had 5 minutes. It was like a quick fire session in which I tried to fit like an hour presentation into 5 minutes, and I think I just missed the mark, to be completely honest. I feel like there was a lot of really, really good feedback on it, but it was a lot of questions unanswered. And I think that obviously then lessons learned was let's expand on this. And so yeah, Puyo obviously um, gracefully accepted that I would jump in, given that I think it is a predominant MVP or Microsoft employee or MCT platform, and obviously myself not being one of those, very grateful. But yeah, no,
I mean,
once
at the time I asked him, hey, like, what kind of presented demographic have you got? And he's like, oh, just, generally MVPs, but experienced speakers. I'm like, those spoken before.
he got a microphone.
Yeah, he talk, but most important.
But most important, he think before he talk in 5 out of 6 cases. Uh, no, as I said, mine was, I guess, mine was way before there were security copilot agents. It was the concept of essentially building security copilot agents in the form of a logic app to be able to, I guess, ease into automation within the Sentinel post. So, all of a sudden you're hearing triage phishing and triage insider risk and triage DLP and the idea of, I guess, my session was, I guess, a broad um, I guess, starting point of you can use Security Copilot within a Logic app, which obviously is the direct integration into automation within Microsoft Sentinel. So it was more just trying to bridge the gap as to knowledge. Obviously, not everybody is in the security industry, so it's really is that what is Sentinel, what is SIEM, what is SOAR, what is Security Copilot, explaining SKU, um, and probably once again re-establishing that it is not SKU. But
It's
then
SCA. We'll call it
it's
SCA. SCA from now
nice.
on.
Yeah,
SCA.
you're welcome. We fixed no, we fixed the terminology. Um,
And then rename it next week.
oh god, security PC, SPC. SPC is kind of copyright. No. But no. It was more on like how that you can, potentially use Security Copilot in a more dynamic manner, where you might want it to, complete that triage process. So an incident comes in, regardless of incident, or if you have a specific incident type, or maybe a specific tactic such as initial access, and then having a small form, call it agent, which you would be able to say, of this type of incident or of this type of tactic, please just give me the information I need. And then the ability to then say, of that information, if you still think it's a high, tell me and flick me an email. So obviously then integrating into all the other available platforms within a Logic app. So all of a sudden you've got all your third party connections, so you can pipe a Teams message over here, send an email over here, update the Sentinel actual incident with comments, tasks, I guess reassigning severity levels based on, and just really trying to give people a head start so that you too can obviously start to look at that. Obviously, then October 1st, Security Copilot Agents comes out, and I was like, I tried to do that, but obviously it's a lot easier to do in a Copilot Agents environment, and with MCP for Sentinel coming through and whatnot, and Graph, Security Graph, it is not Security Graph, Sentinel Graph. Um,
Central graph, yeah. The
yeah,
fact that it's all just natural
Security.
language, just tell it what you want, and here you go.
But no, I had some pretty good feedback. I've had people message me on LinkedIn being like, really enjoyed this. Where would I get learning material for this and whatnot? In which I've gone, well, it really isn't any learning material. It's kind of an unconventional way to do something. And have you seen Security Copilot agents? But I think it was, thinking a bit more outside the box towards achieving a common goal, maybe a gap. And really, it's probably, it's something that a analyst could do and not require, even though you don't really require a full development background to be able to play with agents. Because obviously I'm playing with agents and I have zero ability to code.
Low code, no code is taken over. It's such a great time to create, make, whatever the verb is. Makers, yes, a make.
Add.
Crud.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it is also October, and I believe you're going away for a bit this month. So
Yeah.
we will probably have an episode where you're not there. So we'll see what happens. Might be an in-person thing, and we'll record it differently. We'll see how our times align up with Shahan. Um, he's not going away, is he? No.
I believe it's
But
you.
oh yeah, I'll be away pretty much all December, so end of November. So we'll probably get an app or two in before I go anyway, and then depending on how we're feeling for the New Year's.
I said,
uh,
but as of earlier today, we were discussing, do we call it season two for different years and whatnot? So we may have to restructure how we do some of the naming convention of these episodes. But no, I said, yeah, I'm off
in the
to.
schedule.
Yeah, yeah. We'll figure it out. No, I said I think that this is, it's a good way to recap. It's kind of the conversations that we have anyway about what's happening. Obviously, we all try to keep ourselves up to date with this stuff, so it's a good platform to do that. And once again, I do hear some really good feedback in regards to this. So I definitely don't think this is stopping. I think we're only at the start of it. I do reckon we probably want a couple more guests here and there. Even
Mm.
if it is something you built, a lessons learnt that you had, even if you just want like a section, um, you know, voice up, we're, we're more than happy to give you, I guess, a platform to speak from. We ourselves obviously are grateful for the platforms that we get given the opportunity to speak on. So I think it reciprocates that, to be able to then provide that to those who maybe be interested, maybe want that assistance to be able to speak from and whatnot too. But no, to your point, I am off to, I guess, the UK. I'm off to a bunch of different locations in which the itinerary is on my phone and I cannot remember it off the top of my head. And I'm going away for a solid month.
Shropshire. How
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I come back and I'm like, and I'm Earth. No, that was the worst. I'm not going to do that again. Just mute this one. Nah. But no, looking forward to it. And then you're away in December. So yeah, look, I'd say we will be able to get a November in. The
Yeah.
October, to your point, it would be good to see another in-person one. I think there was a lot of good like feedback from that in-person one that we had with Matt Clark. So
Hmm.
um, once again, it might be a good situation where we pipe a message into the Discord chat to say who'd be interested, and uh,
Yeah, I'll do a bit of cross discording and see what happens out of that.
absolutely.
Probably might even get like a bunch of people, so it could be like like a recorded event. See what happens. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's it. We'll figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
but
And on
no,
that note,
yeah.
yeah,
So look, I think with that being all the updates, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. That's what we're planning. If you are interested, give us a yell. If not, that's all right. We appreciate you obviously tuning in, but I'd say we will start wrapping this one up. I'll hand it back to you, Andrew, to do the final bits.
no, again, well, thanks for tuning in and catching our latest episode, and we hope to, well, yeah, you will catch us on our next one, but on whichever platform you are catching us on, be it video or audio. But yeah, thanks for the support, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Insert fade out music.
Yeah, that's it.